Hi guys, it's Mark Zickery, Mr. Sci-Fi, also known as Mark Zickery of Space Command, getting ready for our big Space Command panel at Comic-Con and ramping up and editing and working on trailers and on and on and on. Tons of stuff. Also been working up some ideas for some new series, just kind of to prime the pump. I've been coming up with some interesting things, strange ideas. But I want to talk about a few things that I've been watching over the last few days. I went to a premiere of Valerian last night at the American Cinematheque, an advanced screening, and also I saw the season 7, I think it's seven, yes, season 7 opening of Game of Thrones, and want to talk about those things. Also, I watched prior to going to see Valerian, I watched The Fifth Element again, and so let's just talk about all of this stuff. Well, the great part about all of this is that it all comes from enormous enthusiasm on the part of the creators. So George R. R. Martin, the showrunners on Game of Thrones, the actors, of course, who are spectacular. Valerian is a labor of love for Luc Besson. Uh, so let's just dive in. So Valerian, let's start with Valerian. It's extremely, I found it exciting and tedious. And I mean, what I meant was that the pacing is meant to be exciting, but I was finding it like, oh, this is a little bit of a slog. I think the reason is because it's all visual effects. There's a strong lack of solidity to it. I mean, when you watch Fifth Element. Now, Fifth Element, when I originally saw the trailer before it came out and didn't know anything about it, I thought it was going to be in the tone of Blade Runner, which is one of my favorite films. I thought, oh, this is going to be great. So when I first saw Fifth Element, I was a little disappointed because it was, of course, satirical and humorous and goofy. But once I accepted what it was, it became a film that I like very much. And the actors are quite wonderful. The visual design is quite wonderful. It's it has a lot to recommend it. And it's quite a fun film. It's quite a fun film, and I think really pays off on what it promises. Uh, Valerian is very much in the same style and tone, but it's much more hyper, much more on the run all the time. Basically, it just doesn't take a breath. It's fight scenes, battles, all of this, but because it's all CG, or most of it is CG, it just seems like you're watching an animated cartoon. It's very hard to buy into the stakes. Now, certain things are gorgeous and wonderful. There are these willowy aliens who live on a beach planet, and they're very beautifully designed and well acted, and they're fun to watch. But the two leads are attractive, but their acting is not spectacular, and some critics have talked about their lack of chemistry. And I think chemistry is the conviction of the actors in delivering the fact that they're attracted to each other and so forth. And though there are certainly couples in movies who have zero chemistry, but I just think the acting is kind of weak. Though one thing's interesting, if you listen to the lead actor, he actually, if you close your eyes, he sounds very much like Keanu Reeves, and that same kind of flat affect. Just listen for it. It's kind of fun to when you notice it. Because I was watching the movie and going, "Who does he sound like? Who does he sound like?" And then the penny dropped. But Valerian, if you're in the mood for sort of kind of a fun science fiction film that's just kind of goofy and nonstop and is a comic book, it may be your cup of tea. I'm probably going to see it again, but it just doesn't. It didn't capture my heart the way I hoped it would. And now we get to Game of Thrones, of course. Now, Game of Thrones is an amazing show. It's the scale of it, the delivery, in that case, the visual effects are spectacular. It's just an amazing show. They're grounded. They feel very, very solid. It's one of the best visual effects teams in the business, and what they deliver week after week is just phenomenal. It ranks with the best features being made, and the cast is terrific. And there were a few seasons where Game of Thrones was grimly filled with torture and gratuitous nudity, and it was just kind of rather hard to get through. And fortunately, they eased back on that. So every now and then, a good character actually has a victory, and we haven't had too many torture scenes of late, if any. So I'm glad of that. I think this season is going to be fairly amazing, and the final season is going to be amazing. And they've already announced they're going to be doing spin-offs. So we shall see what we shall see. It's very fun, by the way, that that so many of these shows and movies are made by people that I've worked with or met. I worked with George R. R. Martin on Beauty and the Beast and the new Twilight Zone, and this is before he came up, before Game of Thrones was a glimmer in his eye, and I'm very pleased with the success he's had. He deserves it, and Game of Thrones is an amazing show. I think it's one of the greatest shows ever made. Meantime, of course, I'm working on the new Twilight Zone companion. Just interviewed George Takei, and so I'm very much thinking about the history of television, and also the history of film, and what it takes to create something that lasts and something that moves people. And I think there always has to be a profound truth at the heart of something for it to last, for it to sustain. And certainly Rod Serling succeeded with that. But I think Game of Thrones will succeed. I think it's going to where it goes. It's fascinating now because all these characters that we've watched for year after year after year are now going to be coming into direct conflict, and that's going to be fairly remarkable because Daenerys has been off on her other continent, and all these characters have been scattered. Now they're going to be coming together, and I'll be watching it certainly. In terms of Valerian, it's a big budget movie. There's also this interesting dichotomy where so many big budget films now are relatively empty of meaning, empty of content, compared with TV shows that are now filled with content that have profound meaning, and this is why now movie stars are in TV shows. It was very funny. They announced the Emmy nominations the other day, and if you look at the Emmy nominations in drama, and I think even in comedy, but primarily in drama, you'll see that so many of them are movie stars who are also working in television. So now the lines are down, the barriers are down, and actors are doing some of their best work in television. So that's sort of where everything stands. I think Dunkirk's coming out this weekend. Not a science fiction film, but it will be an amazing film, I suspect. Christopher Nolan certainly knows how to deliver on a big scale, and again, he uses practical effects where he can, physical effects rather than CG, and it's augmented by CG, but he understands that there's a solidity, a physicality, and that's also the difference, by the way, between Valerian and Fifth Element, because that used models, and it used physical aliens, and some of them look kind of rubbery, but those big golden ones, those big bulky ones that are at the beginning of the movie are remarkable. And Luc Besson had an eye for both talent and design, and so that's sort of it for now. You'll form your own opinions of all of these things, but at least there's a lot of work being done from passion, being done because people love it. And so the one thing you can say about Valerian is that it isn't done because someone wanted to make a buck. It's done because someone loved it and was committed to seeing it happen. And so that's it for now. Mark Zickery, Mr. Sci-Fi. Come visit me at Comic-Con. Come to the Space Command panel Friday noon, and we'll definitely have a chance to talk. And that's it for now. Talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.